governor-elect going forward?
Well, I introduced a budget today that I'm incredibly proud of because it's built on the success of our last 4 years. Success with record economic development wins, literally more than the last 24 years combined, record job growth, and record revenue. And that's allowed us to provide record tax relief, $9 billion of tax relief. And the budget today has another $730 million of tax relief in it. And yet it still provides record investments in these most important areas that we have to fund. Medicaid, the biggest increase in the entire budget, $2.6 billion of increased Medicaid funding. By the way, anybody who says that we're cutting Medicaid funding isn't paying attention to anything. But with this budget, we are also able to press forward on the things that we know work. We know that at the heart of transforming education has been, one, record investment in education. And we're adding again, taking up our overall funding for the biennium to a number that's just at 50% increase over before we started. I mean, it's just a huge commitment, but it's working. On top of that, there's incremental pay for teachers. There's a 2% bonus for teachers in this budget for this year, plus 2% raises in each of the next year. Teachers have been so important to leading the nation in reducing the learning loss from math, to leading the nation in reducing chronic absenteeism, to the entire transformation that we have undertaken to make sure that parents can know and see what's going on in the classrooms, and there's transparency in how our schools are doing. Listen, we made the tests harder and the students are doing better, and I want to thank the teachers for their hard work. All of this is wrapped up, I think, in a budget that continues the great work that we have done. And I think that the new governor coming in hopefully will recognize that the transformations that have been undertaken during our administration in education and in law enforcement and behavioral health and how we do economic development, how we support our clean rivers and streams in Chesapeake Bay, how we run government, they all work. And therefore, I hope that she will continue them. I am worried, Nick, about some of the legislation that's already been dropped. And it's anti-business legislation. And I'm hopeful that people can just look at the record and recognize that when you pass legislation that pours more costs onto businesses, that disincentivize housing development, that makes it impossible for someone who's not a union worker to work by getting rid of right to work in Virginia, that it will have a terrible impact on not just our business community, but then the knock on to the entire Commonwealth. So that's my concern going forward. And that's my advice to the new governor coming in, which is what we have done has worked in a tremendous way. And I hope she continues the same game plan.
Yeah, we've covered that legislation, the repeal to right to work that Jennifer Carroll Foy introduced. Aside from that, when you talk about legislation that you say is anti-business, what else are you looking at? Legislation that's been introduced so far?
Yeah, it's everything that pours costs onto businesses by mandating a substantial increase in minimum wage, to mandating all of the benefits that businesses should be choosing from as opposed to being told what they have to offer, to undermining all of the ability for housing developers and multifamily developers to be confident that they can earn a return on their investment. And of course, we cannot just skate by right to work. I mean, that would be a death blow for the Commonwealth of Virginia's business community. No state that has gotten rid of right to work is a winning state today. There are losing states and there are winning states, states that are growing economically, states that are growing population, and states that are growing jobs. And states that have right to work are the winning states. And those are the ones that we have been competing against to win. I mean, we're winning against North Carolina and Tennessee and South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Texas. We are winning. And that is something that we have to continue to protect and advance. And I'm worried about some of this legislation that I've seen filed. And I do hope that the General Assembly and the incoming governor recognize the detrimental impact that it could have on the Commonwealth.
What is this incoming governor and the General Assembly inheriting from your administration? What does the rainy day fund look like right now? Is Virginia flush with cash? And what is that amount? And are you fearful that Democrats will spend it all?
Well, Virginia is as strong today as she has ever been. She's the strongest financially she's ever been. And that is represented in our 15% rainy day fund reserve, which is near the top of the nation in rainy day fund reserves. And we have funded into that every year to the point where we're now hit the cap. And I think that's an incredibly important anchor or pillar to our AAA bond rating. I mean, we are AAA bond rated in a state that continues to show $10 billion of revenue surplus over the last 4 years and tremendous growth. And when you compare that, Nick, to our neighboring states, listen, Maryland and Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia just got downgraded this past year, downgraded. And we had our AAA rating affirmed. I believe that the incoming governor is being handed a Virginia that has never been stronger financially, never been stronger economically, and has never been stronger providing the services and capabilities that will keep her that way.
Okay, this is a two-parter for you. So you had a message to the General Assembly and the governor-elect about Reggie. Talk to me about the savings Virginians have had on their electricity bills by pulling out of Reggie. It looks like the incoming governor wants to rejoin. Second part, which is actually a completely different question, is what's next for you? So we'll start with Reggie, and then what's next for you, Governor?
Well, the threat of runaway electricity bills is real. And we've worked hard during this administration to keep them from running away, and just compare the runaway increases in Maryland to what we've been able to do in Virginia. And you will see the result of good policy versus bad policy. All of the above, battling against the Virginia Clean Economy Act, which mandated that everything had to be wind and solar, which is far more expensive than the traditional power generating capabilities. And that is something that I think Virginia should worry about. When I pulled this out of Reggie, currently I've been saving Virginians $500 million a year on their electricity bill. And they want to go right back in. And Reggie doesn't work. It is a tax. It gets passed straight through to the consumer who has no choice, no nothing. And we are seeing even Democratic governors pull out of Reggie because they know it's just a scam. And I'm hopeful that the incoming governor can recognize this. I mean, at the end of the day, the Virginia Clean Economy Act, going back into Reggie, mandating everything has to be wind and solar. These are absolute certain pathways that will drive up everybody's electricity bill. I mean, we've already seen the beginnings of this, where Dominion filed and has been approved to raise everybody's bill by hundreds of dollars every month. I mean, this is crazy stuff. And so as a result, I do believe that staying out of Reggie is a pillar of keeping electricity bills down. That's what we've done. And I encourage the General Assembly today and the incoming governor to stay out of it.
And what's next for you?
Nick, I've been asked this question since the day I got elected. I mean, literally, I feel like I've answered it every day I've been governor, and I've answered it the same way, and I'm going to answer it the same way for you again today, which is I am focused on Virginia until the last moment I'm here. I still have about 30 days left. Just last week, we announced $1.2 billion of economic development wins, thousands of jobs underpinned by that, and we're going to work every single day. I promised Virginians during this term-limited privilege of serving as governor that I would give it everything I have every single day, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm not one of those folks that spends an enormous amount of time about worrying what I'm going to do after this. We're going to finish strong, and that's where I promise Virginians I'll stay focused.